There it is. All right, welcome to Reining-In Rogue Users. Super excited to have the team from BabelQuest here, talking about some HubSpot hacks that are going to help you bring order to the chaos. And with that, I'll just pass it over to you three.
Hello, I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna share my screen and dive straight into this. So yes, Reining-In Rogue Users. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce all of us. So I'm Jem. I'm head of success at BabelQuest. I used to be a platform consultant, so have implemented a lot of big portals and now help our clients get the most out of their HubSpot. Hannah, do you want to give a quick intro?
Sure. Hi, I'm Hannah. I work on the expert practices team at BabelQuest with clients on brand new implementations of HubSpot, as well as those who have been on HubSpot for a while and kind of troubleshooting or looking to expand the functionality.
And I'm Chris, and honestly, that is a photo of me. It's just a very old one that somebody manipulated. I'm also a consultant at BabelQuest. I implement new portals. I fix broken portals. And I think, having spent 20 years in sales before doing this, I was the rogue user. I was that person. And as a consequence, as sort of poacher turned gamekeeper, I'm quite good at knowing how to sort of work out why these people are doing what they're doing and hopefully to put a stop to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So not going to bore you, but a little bit about us. BabelQuest, elite HubSpot partner, helping hundreds of business unlock HubSpot. So a few examples there, but I'm not going to dwell too long on that because you're all wanting to look at what a rogue user is and why we're here to help you get around them. So today we're going to talk about 5 key areas that we've found can help you to basically mitigate against rogue users. I saw someone put in there, so what actually defines one? I hope I'm not one. Well, the first thing I want to say is that we're not here to just bash rogue users, because actually they can be the people that push portals forward and really develop your usage of HubSpot. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Portals are getting more complex. Implementations are getting bigger. All 3 of us have implemented many increasingly complex projects over the last few years. And with that, all that work you put in at the beginning, as you all know, can be that is hard in itself, getting to that launch point. But actually, it's the point where you hit go and you need to keep it up afterwards and make sure everything runs smoothly, make sure you're keeping up with the new developments in HubSpot, all of that. That's where it can get a little bit tricky. And it can seem like there are these users, there's always at least one that is trying to undermine your lovely clean portal. They're creating random duplicate HubSpot properties. They're not following a process. They're doing XYZ that's causing problems for you. But the thing is, being able to deal with these users is not just about putting them on guardrails and getting them to follow those processes, but it's also spotting some of those things they're doing so that you can improve your own processes. You can actually improve the portal because often they're pushing the boundaries of what is possible in there. So we're here to help you with that. Kyle mentioned hacks. We have a very big database of HubSpot hacks that we add to all the time at BabelQuest. We'll be touching on those a little bit later, but as we go through each of these stages, we're going to pull out one specific hack for you that will help you to cover this specific area. So we'll refer to those throughout, and it will give you lots of links that aren't big things to implement. These are often little things that all of us have learned by implementing it, a quick workaround, something you can do that can make your life a lot easier. So yeah, we'll be pointing you in the direction of those, and hopefully you'll be going away and trying to put a few of those in place almost straight away. So my first one I'm going to cover for you is user permissions. So I'm on an admin hug. I don't need to stand here and talk to you all about the importance of user permissions. However, most of the time, it kind of covers that getting the user permissions set in there. And then after that, they're just left. So the first thing I would say is keep your super admin super. This is something we come across all the time. So we often see, say, 15 people set as super admin. You really want to be getting that down after launch to 2 to 3, I'd say, no more than that. And in addition to that, having your permission sets defined. That's all well and good. Most of you are probably doing those things, but are you then actually keeping it up to date afterwards? So don't just set the permissions and ignore them. So many times I've seen permission sets set up in a portal, and then a new person joins and someone goes, "Oh, I didn't know which one to give them, so I just gave them everything." Is that okay? No, it's not, because otherwise, why did you create them in the first place? And there are lots of things that can fall out from that. So I'd say be proactive. One of the tips or the hacks I'm going to point you towards today is to help you be proactive, and that is the new advanced filters functionality in the users and teams settings. Users and team settings, usually the place you go to add a user or remove them, but increasingly somewhere that I would add into your regular weekly, monthly checks on a portal, and making it a lot easier for you to review this. So this hack is around how the users table can help you stay on top of your portal's usage. In particular, being able to filter and understand what's actually happening in that portal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dive into our HubSpot test portal and show you. So I'm talking about this screen, users and teams. We've got advanced filters set up here. If you go into here, there are some set filters that are now here to help. So there are some key combinations I'd really recommend setting for your business. So define what is important for you to review. And these is almost a fact-finding mission to figure out things that are going wrong with the portal. So one I'm going to show you now, say someone has got a sales enterprise seat. This is where, yeah. And they were last active more than a month ago. It's not going to show anyone now, but that, for example, would be a really good filter to put in there and have a look, because if you're maxing out your seats in your portal, but actually a few of those users aren't even logging into the portal, you could be reassigning those. And this is just one example of a way those filters could really be helping you to hone in on specific people that you could be speaking to, cleaning up, helping to train a little bit more. There are so many of these filters. So people who haven't synced their calendar, haven't connected their emails, they're in the sales team, but they haven't connected their emails, might be a bit of an issue there. Lots of things to investigate. So the hack really here is define what those categories are that you want to look at. Make time regularly to review those, and basically find some of these people out. Once you've found these people that you want to dig into a bit more, so I've got a test user, Bob. The next one I would recommend is starting to get to grips with this overview. So being able to see when they were last active, how they logged in, what user activity they're actually doing, and if you want to dig into that even more, going into the audit log, really starting to dig into, okay, well, this is a person who really should be using this portal more. What are they actually using it for? And then looking at, okay, they've not connected anything. We have an issue around adoption here, which Chris is going to go into later. You can also see what they're associated to, what the user is assigned. So lots of ways to dig into that even more. So that is my first hack, and I'm going to hand over to Hannah now to move on to asset best practice.
Thank you, Jem. Right, let me share the right screen. Perfect. Okay, so following on from user permissions, which kind of focuses on partitioning data and tools for users, assets in HubSpot can be partitioned as well. So why might we do this? So rogue, people might go rogue as you're kind of used your portal more and you've got more and more assets added to it. So more lists, more workflows, more I don't know, snippets, templates, things will get a little bit overwhelming and confusing for the users. And it might be that they just choose not to be in that space because they're not sure what's expected of them, or they can't find what they're looking for. So an easy way that you can address this is to limit access to assets, so only the right teams and users can view and edit them. And this can be helpful if you want to keep assets separated by department or teams that you've got set up in HubSpot. And it also helps your users to stay focused and organized. Another thing you can do is boost usability, boost navigation of assets with folders. You can organize workflows, files, marketing emails, snippets, templates, lists, documents, maybe some of the other assets into folders within HubSpot. For example, you could group assets into different folders that have different purposes, such as these assets, these workflows are about contact assignment, or these workflows about lead nurturing. Keep them separate. Additionally, you could separate those folders, assign them access or view or edit by team divisions as well that you've set up. And this will help users more easily navigate through those assets in your portal. Another thing you can put into place is segmenting the assets with views. So any assets that are shown in HubSpot on those index tables, you can add filters to segment which of those assets should be shown to different people, and also what information, what's the relevant, the campaign information, the workflow information that you want to see on that. Another way you can manage your assets is by implementing a naming convention. It's another way to boost usability of your HubSpot portal. It could include, in the naming convention, you could have the division, date, product that this particular asset relates to, or if it's marketing assets, you could consider having kind of a prefix in front of the name of the asset that highlights the buyer's journey stage that this asset relates to. So, awareness stage, consideration stage, decision stage. This is useful as well, I find, when you're using those assets in other areas of HubSpot. So when you're using a list or a marketing email within a workflow, it's easy to search for that because you can just input the naming convention to surface those assets that meet what you're looking for. Similarly in reporting as well. And the last best practice piece of advice for assets is to keep on top of cleanup of those assets. I think that as the HubSpot portals have been in place for a while, you just kind of end up with an absolute treasure trove of assets that might not necessarily be useful anymore. And this is where hack number 2 comes into play. This is using a fairly new product update where you can create list properties. And I'm actually going to jump into our HubSpot portal again. So the first step for building out this hack would be first to navigate to your settings, and there's now a drop down in the option for the object on properties to create list properties. And in here you could create a date picker property for, we've called it sunset. So when someone then is in the lists space, they're creating a list in your HubSpot portal, you can add that custom list property to the create list form, sunset date, and they're inputting a date when this list is no longer needed because it's relevant to a marketing campaign that, it's historical, we don't need it anymore. And then I guess the last step to this hack then would be to create a view. So your HubSpot admin or whoever is kind of in charge of keeping those lists clean can go into that list view with a filter of your sunset date is in the past, and they can just delete them and, clean up that space. Okay. The next area that I'm going to talk about is training. So getting champions on board, we find is really key to implementations. doing some user acceptance testing with champion users to really refine your training resources that the end users are then going to use, helps boost adoption, which again, Chris is going to talk about in a little bit. Something that I love that I don't know if is kind of widely known, widely used is HubSpot's Guide Creator. It is in beta at the minute. It's a browser extension that you can get. You can use this within the HubSpot portal or any other kind of places, tech stack that you're using to create how-to guides. And I'm actually going to do a little walkthrough of it. So it's free to download, and we can send this link out afterwards. But basically, you'll just click on New Guide, and it will pop up and ask which of your tabs you want to create the guide for. And then you just click through those steps to show someone how to do whatever you're doing. For example, I've created one prior to this called How to Add a Sunset Property. And I've just clicked through the steps that I would follow to create this sunset property, add that to the create list form. And it's pulled this together in a step-by-step with these images that I've just directly pulled off my screen. And then these all get hosted together in a library. So this is a really useful, I find, resource to use to build out a training resource library. Another fab thing about this is that you can decide who can access it. So if you're using this for internal training, you already know it's secure because it's got all the kind of HubSpot portal security behind it. So not everyone can access your internal training resources. Another thing you can consider is embedding training resources that you've created on a HubSpot dashboard. You can add in external content onto HubSpot dashboards as well as text modules, videos. An example of this is one that Chris has built out in our Babel test portal. So you can get, HubSpot training dashboard. You could have this dashboard across your whole business, or you could have different dashboards, training dashboards for different teams. And you can manage that with the access. And basically then you just add in that external content, the videos. You could add in links to Google Docs, web pages, or you'll get your guides, the guide creator, you could directly embed onto the dashboard in HubSpot as well. And the final training hack, I guess, is if you've got Service Hub, you could consider building out an internal knowledge base of resources. So you've got all the articles segmented into kind of the areas of your business. It allows the users to self-serve, which I think is really key for any training resource. Lots of people don't want to hand raise. They don't want to, if you're the person that they're coming to when they're hand raising, you don't want to answer the same questions over and over again. If you use a HubSpot knowledge base, to build this out, you could also embed a form on that. So you could have your change request form directly in there for people to request any changes to, I don't know, your permission sets. They're trying to do something, they can't do it, they need a new property. You can segment these categories however you want, really. I've just done it on this example. So you could have, your SOPs by the different divisions, FAQs, getting started articles for people onboarding to your HubSpot portal. And kind of the final best thing I think about the knowledge base is that you then get all those search terms with no results. So you'd be able to make sure that your knowledge base was, answering all those questions that people are asking you internally. And we've got the hack number 3 is around how to build out one of those custom dashboards. And I know that we'll link out to this in the slides at the end of the session. And now I'm going to hand over to Chris.
I'm going to look worried and press buttons and hope exactly what I want to happen happens. And so we're going to go to here, and we should be picking up from exactly where you left off, Hannah, data migration. So data migration is always a big issue. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the aftermath here and how we can actually make sure it's right. A lot of the things you need to be thinking about before you do the data migration, are there tools you can use to clean it? Can we get the users to do the cleaning themselves? Can we deal with that whinging and moaning? But it's really, really important to get nice, clean data in that HubSpot portal. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is that once you put your lovely clean data in the portal and you give it to your users, they're going to do everything they can to mess it up. So keeping it clean requires actually tracking it, looking at it. One of the wonderful things about HubSpot's reporting and dashboard facilities are that you can actually just sort of build out this, what I call a one-stop shop for data hygiene. And actually, this is something we originally built out before a lot of the data cleaning tools, a lot of the data quality tools actually came into HubSpot. So it's something that's extended as we've gone. So we're going to go to our HubSpot hack here. I'm going to click in the right part. And here we go. So what we have here is a data health dashboard. Up at the top, we can use the fact that we can add annotations to actually tell the admin or even the deputy admin, whoever's actually taking a look at this, what they should be looking for. And the great thing about something like this is it gives us leading indicators that the data quality is taking a nosedive. These reports I love. They're simple, they're easy to build. And if we just look at this one, for example, we've got legal basis for processing data unknown. We can just click on it. We can find who the contact owner is. It's me. So I need to be told to sort this out. But we can actually go in and start to fix these data holes straight away. And I'm sure everybody on here is fairly familiar with how to build out reports, but these ones are super quick, super easy. And if we just have a quick look at the structure of this, it's a very simple report. Create data at all time. And in this case, I put a filter for legal basis for processing contacts data is unknown. One thing to bear in mind is that what we want to do is have the right data available on drill down. So when we're building the report, yes, we want to see the number of people that have that particular problem, but we also want to see the name of the contact, when it was created, and who owns it. So don't forget to add those. And then the visualization is nice and simple. It's just a summary report, count of contacts, and making sure that we name our report correctly. And if you're in the right mood, you can build these for 10 to 15 key contact data points, 10 to 15 key company data points, and the one that will make your sales director and your CFO happy, 10 to 12 key deal data problems. And if we go back to this dashboard, so we can see in this case, we'd like to be seeing zeros, but they're not all zeros, but it's reasonably healthy data. We've got exactly the same for company data. And this is looking slightly more dicey. Companies without associated contacts. Your marketing team will hate you if that's allowed to happen, because all the good stuff they're doing, they're not going to get any attribution. Deal data we can see. But then we can go down and we can also look at, we've got duplicate management built into HubSpot. It's baked in. But in this case, I've embedded it in this dashboard. So it's all in the same place. So we can look and we can deal with our duplicate issues. We can scroll down a bit. Let's have a look at our workflows. Are there any workflows that are potentially causing problems? And these are just simply embedding HubSpot in HubSpot. A comment, if only my duplicate counts were that low. This is a test portal, it's all fake data. And we can even embed the new data quality tools. So it's basically a case of trying to pull all of that sort of stuff together and have it in one place, so that you're almost telling a story with that data, so that as an admin, I can look at this dashboard once a week on a Monday, and I can see trends. I can work out what's going wrong, and more importantly, how can I start to fix this? Who are my rogue users? So I'd encourage you to build one of these. It probably take you half an hour, if that. So really useful resource. How do you embed pages? We have our actions here, and all we do is we click add external content, and to embed a HubSpot page, you just click other content and literally just drop your URL in there. When it's done, your embed there's probably a better word for that, but your embed is there. So pulling it all together all in one place, and suddenly you've got a really good grip over your data, and you can bash those rogue users and also possibly understand why they're rogue. So you've got things like data monitoring. And I think one thing that I always am at pains to point out is that if, for example, a property is not being used, it could be rogue users not using the property, not following the process, but it could be that that property actually just needs to be archived because it's no use to anyone and it's doing no good. Okay, so we will now move on to hack number 5, adoption and utilization. Now, this is something that is very close to my heart. I do a lot of work on adoption and trying to get people to start using their new HubSpot portal, but also to keep using your HubSpot portal. So we always talk about adoption and utilization because we can force our teams to adopt. We can say, here's a 3-line whip, we'll put it in your contract, day 1, use your new CRM. But if it's difficult to use, if it's clunky, they're not going to continue using it. So we need to be able to monitor and understand what they're up to. So yeah, initial adoption, half the battle, pesky rogue users. Click in the wrong place. So I'm going to go into another dashboard because anybody who's worked with me for a long time knows that I love a dashboard. In this case, we've got the adoption and utilization monitoring dashboard. And I'm also, again, taking advantage of the fact that I can annotate these reports. So in this case, I can give the person who's looking at this dashboard the ability to see, we've got an overview of activity metrics. A low level of activity being logged implies they're not using it. They've not integrated the calendar. There's problems in our data. And we can look at things like just deal creation. We want to see deals being created. We also want to see deals being created at the right stage. And obviously now with the new deal pipeline rules that we can apply, that's not necessarily a problem anymore. But it is good to know that people are creating deals too late, or that, for example, here, Chris is doing a lot of activity, and look at Jem and Hannah. Shocking. We also can look at things like user logons or logins. Again, we can see here things like people who've disabled their calendar integration, people who've turned off emails. I know that sales teams sometimes are very bad for deciding they don't want to have their emails logged in the CRM because somebody might read them. So we're going to keep tabs on this. And again, we've just embedded this, the details here. And, going back to what Jem was saying, that look at this portal, look at all the super admins in here. So this needs possibly sorting out. But again, we can do things like count up the monthly active users, daily active users, and keep tabs on it that way. Excuse me. We can also look at what people are doing when they're training as well. We can embed our HubSpot Academy My Team page. And again, this gives us an idea of the sort of level of engagement that people are having with HubSpot. And we can also use this to look out for people that are doing loads of training, because they might be our future champions or our future internal trainers. So we can look at that. And in this portal, because it's a an enterprise portal and I have the luxury to do so, I've actually created a user object so that I can track people's training records. So in this case, I'm tracking who are my champions, who can train other people, who's done basic, intermediate, and advanced or admin training, and what certifications have they got. So again, we can kind of see if there's people that are not doing the training programs. Going back to Hannah's lovely training dashboard, we can see people that haven't gone through that training. Data health, we can look at that again, because poor data is a great sign that people aren't using the portal properly. So keep an eye on that data health and putting those key data points on a dashboard. I'm also getting user feedback from an adoption point of view. I've got Service Hub, I can do surveys. So I'm doing monthly surveys, and we're saying, here's the results of the monthly user feedback survey. We're getting everybody to do it, and we're going to put it on a dashboard so that we can immediately see this month there might be a problem with people using the system. Lots of people have got the same problem, but equally we're getting positive feedback that we can use to positively reinforce and send out to everybody. We've got our support tickets for internal support. We can track that. And finally, we've got our security logs so that if somebody is doing something awful, we can see that and work out, do we need to make some changes to permissions? So again, this dashboard is just pulling all that key adoption data, the utilization data together in one place, so that as an admin, I can go and have a look on a Monday morning and I can see what happened last week, and I can work out, what do I need to do this week? And at that point, I will hand back to Jem, Kyle, who's in charge here.
Me. I've got a little bit more of Kyle. If I can have a little bit more time, I'm going to just wrap things up.
Right, I'll give you the screen.
With that, let me share my screen. So there was a lot of information there. I think if we kind of go back to thinking about those 5 hacks and going back to those rogue users. So we spoke about reining in the rogue users, but I really think it's about turning rogue users into champions instead. Like, there's so much you can do to set parameters that keep them on track, training them properly, creating the right resources, getting everything in the right place so you can really set them up for success rather than making them your enemies. Because actually, if they're going rogue in the HubSpot portal, at least they have passion and at least they want to use the portal. So I would always try to win them over and try and use that. And the other one is really being proactive with addressing issues that they might be finding and finding solutions for and adapting the portal. HubSpot is not, as you know, something that sits still. So once you've implemented it, you should always be looking at new product updates, new things you can be doing, responding to users. And a lot of this is about keeping up with that and keeping on top of it. We've spoken a lot about hacks in this, and I just wanted to, first of all, we did actually a whole adoption hug. The first episode in this series spoke with Phil, Chris, and Matt, and they had a really great discussion all about adoption that goes into a lot more detail. Chris has given you the tip of the iceberg when it comes to adoption. It is something that we have a whole hug on, so it is worth plugging that, as you should go and catch up on the recording of that as the first in the series. We also spoke all about HubSpot hacks. We have a knowledge base ourselves where we've posted many hacks covering all types of things across HubSpot, and wanted to just flag those. So these slides will have links to all of those hacks, but do subscribe to the weekly emails. Take a look on LinkedIn at the BabelQuest LinkedIn. We've actually got HubSpot Hack Advent going on at the moment. So every single day, a new hack is highlighted on LinkedIn, ranging from some of the things we've said today through to little things that can make your marketing better, around sales forecasting, reporting. There are so many things in there. So definitely check out the HubSpot Hacks database. I saw a lot of love in the chat for all the dashboards that Chris was mentioning. And there are so many more you can be building. Some of these have become staples that we build in every client portal. So there are lots of hacks around what we would recommend putting into them. We've actually run a boot camp around the data hygiene dashboard because it gets such love every time we mention it. So we are now running 6-part sessions on those. So if you're interested in those, let us know. We can let you know when the next one is. But yeah, overall, I hope you enjoyed that. There have been a lot of questions already that I've tried to answer in the chat, but happy to stick around and answer more questions. But that is it. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome. I know the chat was very positive throughout, and everybody's looking forward to checking out your database. Looks like over in the Q&A we've got 29 questions. I highly recommend everybody head over there and use that upvoting feature. Vote for the ones that you find interesting. Scroll through, take a peek, and then we will sort them most votes to least votes to make sure we're answering the most impactful questions possible. I will hold silence for, I think 15 seconds is about my max. And then
I want to get started on the biggest rogue user is the CEO, because that's one we see a lot. It's that sort of ego based. Top tip there: make your own user permission profile and call it super admin full stop. Give them that. And then they'll think they've got super admin, but they're never going to do anything they need to be super admin for. So it appeases the ego and also keeps them from doing anything bad.
Love that. Okay, I am sorting by popularity now with 12 upvotes. Oh, that's the CEO one. Nailed it. Well done. With 11 upvotes. On the topic of user permissions, one of the major issues we are seeing with rogue users is the ability for users to merge records in the system without any approval. Any chance there will be an update to HubSpot at some point where we can require approvals for merging or the ability to turn off access to merging records? Thank you. So I don't know the answer. I get lots of questions about merging. Sounds like a thing I need to investigate, and maybe we could get a relevant product manager from HubSpot to do a whole session on that here. I think that would be worthwhile. But in the absence of a product update to announce, BabelQuest team, do you have?
I put a little bit of a response in there. It's kind of, I agree. It would be great to have this as a separate user permission that you can literally say whether you want to merge them or not. I think at the moment, if they can't delete a user, if they can't delete contacts companies, then they can't merge them. So that's kind of one way around it, is not allowing deletion. I think the person who answered this said it has to be around edit approval, but as far as I know, I think they literally have to be able to delete it because that's what you're effectively doing by merging. So that's probably the only way I would get around that at the moment, is locking down those permissions. But agree, it would be good to have it as a separate thing.
Great. Thanks for that. Next one. Totally not bitter question here. Do you have suggestions training out laziness that is then supported by management, because it boils down to we don't want to hurt their feelings by making them update information? Totally not bitter and frustrated. Ha.
I'll have a bash at that one.
It's
it's one you're always going to come up against, and it's like that whole, the rainmaker in the sales team gets let off and doesn't have to do anything. But one of the ways you can look at this is actually find something that the management needs from that data. So if there are reports that the manager can look at and say, wow, or show the CEO and say, this shows I'm doing a good job, build a report out of that, and then go to that management person and say, look, your team aren't adding this data, so this report that makes you look good to the board is not working. So it's almost, find out how you can give them some sort of skin in the game to make it useful for them, because a lot of the time you don't want to enter data that doesn't seem useful for you. So finding out a way of making it meaningful to somebody is important. And if it's never going to be meaningful for them, then there's possibly the consideration that, is that data that somebody else needs to collect? Could you automate it? Could you get data being put in, hire a student, whatever it happens to be?
Or do you even need that data at all? Are you using it in a report is always the question I ask people, because people love to collect data. We love to have fields for things, so we have it. But if you're not actioning it, that is work somebody somewhere has to do. And you could save them the trouble if you're not actually going to use it anywhere. Was that a high five, Jim?
That was too many buttons that you don't know what to do with.
Yeah, there are a lot of buttons here. No worries. So I think for sake of time, I'm going to skip ones that have written answers. If you submitted a question that has been upvoted a lot, check it out. A lot of them have written answers now, which is great. We'll focus on the ones that haven't been answered at all. So Michelle asks, will the HubSpot Creator Guide include options for in-screen pop-ups that I can provide immediate reminders, guidance, other knowledge-y things? So I think the guide creator is really just collecting screenshots. Deploying that is sort of up to you. Deanna, do you want to give a little 10-second pitch for...
I might possibly know a tool that can do that for you. If you are interested, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me.
Thanks. Cool. Wow, lots of these have answers. All right, we may circle back to some of them. Would be nice if the files index page had some organizational features like the other index pages, perhaps a file usage column, so that you don't have to click into each file to see if it's being used, and you can quickly clean up errant images or PDFs or other files. Agreed. Joshua, I don't see a question in there, but empathy snaps. Is there a good way or trick to data segmentation with user permissions? Ali, we might need a little more context on what you're trying to accomplish there. So yeah, we'll pass that one for a minute. Kara asks, can you permanently delete a HubSpot user so they no longer show up in filters for deactivated, deleted, even if you have deleted them? Maybe this is a question around the difference between deletion and deactivation.
Yeah, I think if they're deleted, they don't turn up, but I might be wrong on that one. Deactivated, they stay in the list for sure, but
Yeah.
deleted. I think the only difference is if they're deleted, they maybe go from your HubSpot users list, but if they still own contacts and companies, there'll be some remnants of them, so you'd have to reassign those contacts and companies.
Cryptic numeric code.
They'll be in there in the depths of HubSpot, so I don't know how to get rid of them completely in that sense.
Okay. Lots of HubSpot feature requests. I will be exporting out the Q&A and sharing with the product team, so don't worry. Where can I find recordings for previous hugs? We will email you since you were registered for this event, and also they are all on YouTube. Yishu asks, can Tableau be embedded in the dashboard? I've never experimented with Tableau specifically. Do you folks happen to know if that one's supported?
I don't think there's a direct integration into that at the moment, but you could use the external embedding tool. So like using a link for the report into that is probably the only way around it. I'd know.
Yeah, I know a lot of reporting tools will have like a share external or like a TV mode, right? If you have a screen in your office where you want the report, and if you can find a URL like that can be accessed without having to go through login credentials, then you can embed that on a HubSpot dashboard, no problem. Okay, these went much more quickly than I expected. And I never feel bad giving people more time back in their day. The last thing I want to ask you three is, if folks want to connect with you after this, what is your preferred method for them to find you?
LinkedIn is always easy, isn't it? You can search our names on my name on LinkedIn and I'll pop up. That's probably the easiest.
Whoa.
Likewise. I think we've got links on the deck, haven't we?
Yeah.
Can.
Yep.
And we can share that out afterward. But Deanna is, as promised, lightning and has dropped those links in the chat. All right. With that, I think we will call it a day. Please, on your way out, complete today's survey. Deanna has pinned that in the chat. So if you're over in the Q&A, come back over to the chat, click that link, give us some feedback, let us know how we did. There it is again. Thanks so much, Chris, Jen, and Hannah for being here. Loved your hacks. Very excited for everyone to get their hands on these resources. And hope you all have a great December.
Thanks
Thank you for having
us.
us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Fun.